I lost our
Let's take another caller. What do you
screen
think?
list. Yeah, we've got Aziz. Thanks for waiting.
Hi, hello.
Hey,
Are you there?
How are you?
what do you got?
Yeah, I am a little fan of this show. My friend watched this show, and he like just talked to me about this show, and I forgot to introduce myself. I am Aziz. I am from Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
Yeah,
welcome.
sorry. Yeah. Hi. Yeah. I just want to ask. Do you believe that every religion cause the extremists that they have, like Islam? Do you believe that they cause Daesh, and the Christianity they cause KKK? Do you believe that?
are the religions the sole source of it? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Do you believe that?
No. I think
And
what we see from
what do you think
religions.
is the soul?
So I think there are people who tend towards ideas, and if their religion
Okay.
tends to support those ideas and can be interpreted in such a way to foster those, then that's how you get more and more extreme. I also believe that there are people who may not tend towards the extreme, but who, if they are surrounded by a particular religious sect that is trending extreme, that those people can easily be moved there, that we are malleable. We want to fit in with the crowd, and we know that you can convince people to commit atrocities by convincing them that what they're doing is actually good. If you could convince someone to kill someone else, even if they were never inclined to actually killing another person to begin with, if you systematically break down the humanity of the other person and place them in an enemy box and make a strong case for why the world needs this person to die, I think you can move people to extremes, and I think some people are more easily moved than others, and I think that there are probably some people who won't be moved to extremes, and they will end up leaving the religion that, if it gets too extreme, for a softer version. So it's a mix.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I just like want to say that like Islam have like 99% of the Muslim like are not extremists because they know that Islam are not like Islam is not about that.
So where did you get the 99% number?
Because like there is 1.5 billion Muslim, and
Well,
if you take like just 1.5
Sure.
billion
So
Muslim.
it also depends on what you're going to
Yeah,
define, how you're going to define extreme, because when we look at polls, we see, in different regions, support for female genital mutilation may be incredibly high, not to 99%, but 70, 80% in this region, and virtually non-existent in some others. And the idea of apostates being deserving of death or having the death penalty for, blaspheming Allah or whatever, support for that is far above 1% in almost any region. So that's why I was. What do you think is extreme?
Do you know what is 1% of like 1.5 billion? It is like 100 million, and there is no 100 million terrorists.
So maybe terrorist would have been a better word
one of the causes
than extremist.
So first of all, terrorists are different from extremists. They're probably the extremist of the extremists. But for example, there's a video online that you can go watch where you have a bunch of Muslims in the UK who are asked specific questions about what they would support and their views and what they would support as far as, stoning women and other honor killing type things, as far as what they think is good
Yeah.
far greater than 1%. Whether or not they actually take action on that is a separate issue.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I would think that if let's say there's 50% of Muslims in a particular area advocate for death for apostates, they're not all going to run around.
But like
They're not all.
but like these people do not reason. I am in the Mecca university, and we learn things there. And we when we sit with these terrorists, when we sit with these extremists, and we try to reason with them, they just shout and they don't want to reason because when you show them when you show them Islam, they realize that they are wrong, and they just shout or they just scream, and they said, you are a kafir, you are a kafir. And these people do not reason. These people, when you talk to them, these people do not reason.
Welcome to our world.
And that's.
I would argue that they do, and that everybody does. But what you're basically saying, I can understand that they are not responsive to your attempts to sway them.
Yeah, if you just sit with one of these extremists, one of these people that says, "Oh, honor killing is from Islam," and you sit with them with a real Muslim who knows.
Oh, a real Muslim.
Yeah.
How do we determine who's a real Muslim? How do we determine who's a real Muslim?
Forgive me for using real Muslim. I meant like a person who studied Quran.
Okay. You don't think that there are extremists who study the Quran and have a different interpretation than perhaps you do?
I think that there is no extremists that have gone to Mecca University, because in Mecca University, the first thing they teach us is to search for errors in the Quran, and if we find one, we try to reason.
So you're saying there are errors in the Quran?
No.
Wait.
If someone
you said that the first thing they teach you is to look for errors in the Quran, and if you find one.
Yeah.
But so nobody's ever found one.
Because I have seen many atheists and many Christians reading the Quran, and they just interrupt it with their own mind, and they just put aside the teaching of the Prophet. They put aside every explanation that the Prophet have put forward, and they just said, "Oh, this is Islam." But if they read,
that's not what I'm at. So, are there errors in the Quran?
No.
Then why would they teach you to look for errors if there aren't any?
They teach you to read the Quran like if an atheist read the Quran without any explanation from the Prophet.
They're teaching you apologetics.
No. Okay, look. The Islam as a religion was taught to us by the Prophet, right?
I don't know. I know that's the claim.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. I don't consider the individual who's being cited an actual prophet.
Sure. He taught us Islam, and there is no verse in the Quran unless you find an authentic hadith that he talked about this verse. And I don't like when the people read the Quran and they interrupt it as they like. And that's what terrorists do. When you sit with the terrorists, they use verses kill them wherever they found them. Mm-hmm. But if you see what the Prophet said about this verse. There was a time in the city of the Prophet where there was some non-believers came in the night and kill Muslims when they walk alone. So this verse came to guard the Muslim at night. But when the non-believers, some of the non-believers just quit doing that, the verse was like the verse, you don't need it anymore. Do you know what I mean? And these terrorists do not see what the Prophet said. And that's what
So you do understand that you have a particular interpretation, which you've been taught, which includes the idea that there are no mistakes. And these other people, hang on.
Yeah.
These other people have a different interpretation. How does anybody tell which one is correct? And by the way, why was it okay to kill under that specific circumstance anyway?
Before you answer, let me ask the same question a slightly different way. Isn't the fact that the verse is ambiguous evidence that it's got errors?
Sorry?
If a particular verse can be interpreted 7 different ways, what good is it? It's an error just from that perspective.
Yeah. But when you read that verse alone and you don't see what the author said about that verse, you are just interrupted with your own mind.
First of all, I have no indication of some extra context from the author. But even if there was, for example, if you go to Surah 489.
Okay.
This doesn't say anything about, hey, there are people who are killing Muslims, kill them. What it says is they wish that you should disbelieve, that there are people who are trying to sway Muslims away from religion. They wish that you should disbelieve as they disbelieve, and then you would be equal. Therefore, take note to yourselves, friends, so don't be friends with them until they immigrate in the way of God. Then, if they turn their backs, take them and slay them wherever you find them. Take not to yourself any one of them as a friend or helper. So this verse, absent any other context, says, hey, there are people who are trying to sway you away from Islam. Don't be friends with them. And if they convert to Islam and then move away, you are to kill them. It doesn't say anything at all about this is self-defense. This is about belief. And if they believed and they stopped believing, you are to take them and slay them.
Okay, and that's and that's your interpretation when you.
I'm reading it.
Is that right?
Granted, I'm reading it in English.
Please, that is your interpretation when you read that verse. Is that right?
What's wrong with my interpretation?
Yep. The correct interpretation is what the Prophet says.
So the Prophet didn't say this? The Prophet didn't say this?
No. This is the word of God. But you got to see how the Prophet acted on it.
No, I don't. 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 If this is the word of God and the Prophet acted differently, then the Prophet is in conflict with God.
Bro, please, look, God sends messenger, God says prophet with these books, so people does not, get these books and do whatever they want.
This isn't saying do whatever you want. This is saying kill apostates. If you made a book, okay? Yeah.
If you made a book, and someone just took one line from that book, and that line was like saying, if someone doesn't believe.
So if I read the next one, does it tell me that the last one was wrong and that I should interpret it a different way?
No.
I would not write a book that says kill people who don't believe. There's no way. If my goal is to tell people how to live their life, there is no way I would write that phrase at all, because Because even if I wrote it and intended to clarify it later, or have some prophet clarify it, I don't know why prophets need to clarify the Word of God, why the Word of God isn't clear enough on my own. But if I'm God and I write a passage that says, if anybody believes and then turns away, you are to take them and slay them, I am a fucking monster. Hang on.
Yeah.
And if I later often offer to correct it, to say, no, I didn't really mean, then I'm a fucking idiot.
Bro, why do you swear? Why do you swear?
Why shouldn't I swear? I'll tell you exactly why I swear. Because I'm talking to someone.
We are talking politely here, bro.
No,
we are talking politely.
We are talking politely. What is your objection to the word fuck?
Islamic countries have different sensibilities.
So here's the thing. I will retract it. If I do that, I'm an idiot or a monster. We can remove the F word from it if that's what's really standing in the way. But the reason that I include those words is for emphasis, because we're talking about 1 billion people who are convinced, many cases like you, that this is the perfect Word of God, and then they do a tap dance about what is the correct interpretation, or what did the prophet do with regard to this, and they sit here and you make an argument like the one you just made to me, which is, hey Matt, if you wrote a book like this, I wouldn't write a book like this. It's inhuman. I would never say, go kill people. Wait a minute, I was just teasing. That's stupid, because if the later passage gets removed,
or separated,
or if somebody says, no, the later passage doesn't clarify 489, it clarifies this other passage over here. Now I'm leaving it all in the hands of people to interpret. And if what I've given them to interpret says kill people who stop believing, I'm an ass. I am a monster. I am instructing people in inhuman things. And the fact that you aren't willing to kill people doesn't mean that you have the correct interpretation.
God didn't leave people to make sense of this.
Did God write that passage?
He sent a prophet to enforce
How do you know that?
These law.
How do you know that? And what kind of God says that passage and then sends a prophet to correct it?
No, he didn't send a prophet to correct it. Like Moses.
So it hasn't been corrected?
Like Jesus.
Has that passage been corrected?
Let me complete my sentence. Let me complete my sentence, man.
Did God write that passage?
Yes.
And is that passage good as it stands?
Did you read the whole chapter?
Yes, I'm looking at this one here. This passage 489. Is it good as it stands?
You just read a couple of verses.
Correct.
And you interrupted.
So these were put in order by length. So are we talking about the original order, or are we talking about the one that's just slightly longer or slightly shorter than this one?
It doesn't matter what the rest of the passage says, unless something in the rest of the passage says, ignore 489.
No. Man. I just want to tell you this last thing, because are
you going to answer any questions, or are you just going to tell me one last thing? Did God write that?
You are not allowing me.
He said he did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it good?
Yes.
And does it instruct you to kill non-believers?
No.
Then you're a liar.
Why?
Because it says, if they turn their backs, take them and slay them wherever you find them. That is an instruction to kill non-believers.
At any time, right?
I don't care. I don't care if he only meant to do it on Tuesdays or do it once every 50 years. It gives you an instruction to kill non-believers, doesn't it?
No.
Does that passage, Aziz? Aziz, does that passage?
You are not allowing me to finish any sentence.
Aziz, does that passage say to slay non-believers?
In what time?
Okay, now we're on to something, because you're acknowledging that it says slay the non-believers. right?
Yes, in what time?
I don't
like
care what
in,
time. I don't care if it was
America,
500 years ago or last Tuesday or last week.
when,
It says,
like when,
it says, does it not, slay non-believers, right?
to Iraq, did they
Right.
just tell him?
Why can't you be honest about what your book says when I'm looking right at it?
Yeah. You are not.
Does Allah want you to lie on his behalf?
No.
Then does that passage instruct someone at some time to slay non-believers because they are non-believers?
At a specific time.
Okay, that passage instructs someone to slay non-believers at some specific time because they are non-believers, correct?
No.
Goodbye. Play the video back and go read it. The point that you're not getting.
The irony here is just so thick. I love it because he's complaining that certain people are so extremist that they can't listen to reason, and here we are trying to reason with him, and we're not getting through.
I would be fine if someone said, yes, that passage was written by God and instructs people to slay non-believers because they are non-believers, but it only applies at specific times in specific ways. I would be fine with that, but he couldn't even acknowledge that clearly, or when he did, he then turned around and changed it. This is what apologetics does to people. This is what religion does to people. When you believe that this book is perfect, you have already fooled yourself.
And you've cashed in your integrity to believe that, right?
Because the thing is, you can say this passage tells people to kill non-believers at this specific time, although that passage does not say that. But you can say it only applied at a specific time. And my response to you is, I don't care when you think it applied. Killing someone for not believing is immoral, inhuman, and Allah, if he wrote that, is an unmitigated thug who knows nothing about humanity, and he has poisoned your ability to understand because your only goal is to make excuses and reinterpret it in a way that suits what you want it to be. And I don't care what you want it to be. And if there's a God, why does he need to send information in a book instead of talking to people? And if he writes down information in a book, why does he need to send prophets to do it? And why does he need to send prophets where, according to you, we're supposed to watch how the prophets follow the book? Because if the book says kill people and a prophet doesn't, I'd say he's in conflict with the book. And if your claim is, yeah, the book says kill people, but the prophet didn't, so we're going to follow the prophet, then why are you pointing to the book and saying it's perfect? Your entire process is a lie that people have fed you and you are feeding yourself, and it makes you sit there and do this tap dance in a discussion where when it says, if they turn their backs, take them and slay them wherever you find them, wherever, it doesn't say anything about whenever, it says wherever. It is not a stretch to think that some people with a bent towards extremism would look at that verse and say, yes, I am instructed by Allah to kill apostates. You can talk about other interpretations and clarifications later, but if you try to make the case that it's absurd to think that people will kill apostates based on this passage, you are the one who has deceived yourself.
Well, Thomas Paine, 200 years ago, made this very eloquent argument that God would never use a book to communicate a message. Language changes, the meanings of words change, they're subject to interpretation. You have to, there's this whole clarity problem. All of these holy books have this problem that they're subject to interpretation and spin, and so it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And now that he's off the phone, any God that wrote that is a fucking idiot.